Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, Trump's gold card. Everybody's always talking about this, especially if you're in the EB-5 world. And as you probably know, Trump made his first big declaration about the new Trump gold card back in March. And as you remember, there were a couple very sensational press conferences they had with Bob Lutnick, some other cabinet members, talking about this $5 million gold card that was just going to reduce the deficit and bring in thousands of investors. And if you followed the news, you realized after March, after those first initial press conferences, there's just no information, no news, nothing. They did create a website where you could take a place in line to get a place if and when the program ever came to life. And actually, we signed up there just to see if we'd get any information or any email blasts or anything. But unfortunately, we did not get any correspondence from them. But then recently, in September of this year, 2025, the Trump team came out with a revised, let's call it a 2.0 gold card. And this revised version looks like they spent a little more time thinking about it, thinking it through. But I think it's also very problematic and not going to be as appealing as Trump and the White House administration thinks it will be. So the gold card, what is this latest version that President Trump is proposing? First of all, he reduced the price. So I guess like any good salesperson, he realized $5 million probably was outside the market, too high of a price. He needed to lower his price position in order to generate any kind of demand. So hey, like any good business person, he reduced it from $5 million to $1 million. Not too bad and not too much more than EB-5. Now, the question is, what are the benefits of this gold card compared to, say, the EB-5 program? Because the EB-5 program, as you know, you invest $800,000 and you have the expectation of getting the $800,000 back. And in the vast majority of cases, you do get that money back. Whereas with the gold card, you're investing $1 million, but you're not investing it, you're donating it. That money goes directly to the US Treasury. Okay, so for some people, maybe that's of value. Maybe they feel patriotic contributing directly to the US Treasury. I tend to think that's not a big motivating factor for most clients. So the first question is the dollar amount. Is it comparable to the EB-5? Is this going to eclipse the EB-5, take its place? I don't think so. I think there's a huge demand for EB-5. There are a number of benefits of the EB-5 program compared to the gold card as it was proposed. And we can go through a few of them right now. First of all, the EB-5 program is written into the law, right? It's a part of the US statute. And according to that statute, the program in its current form will exist at least until September 30th, 2027. And if you file by September 30th, 2026, then you will be grandfathered in and protected from any changes that might occur at some later point in time. So for any changes to occur, it has to be done by an act of Congress. And that adds a degree of certainty and reliability, I think, right? Congress doesn't kind of do these crazy, 100-degree, turns and unexpected announcements and stuff like that. It can be slow, but at least when something's done, there's certainty around it. Trump's gold card is a creation of what's called an executive order. So it's basically a presidential proclamation. And he does have the ability to do that in certain areas, but not with all issues. Now, they were kind of clever in this roundabout of preparing the gold card 2.0 as compared to what they did in the spring, because what they did this time is they said, okay, we have these existing visa categories. Only Congress can create these visa categories, but we're going to change a little bit how we interpret these visa categories. So this new gold card is actually going to be a subset of either an EB-1A or an EB-2 NIW visa. So if you're not familiar with those visas, check out our other videos or go on our website and you'll see EB-1A is for talented individuals with extraordinary abilities. EB-2 NIW is for skilled professionals whose work is in the national interests of the United States, hence the name NIW, National Interest Waiver. And so what Trump is saying is anybody who's willing to donate $1 million to the US Treasury is by definition an extraordinary individual and talented person who deserves a green card because by virtue of the fact that they have $1 million that they're giving to the US government. I mean, it almost sounds comical, right? I mean, how distorted or contorted logic this is. But that's basically what their logic is. They're saying, if you've got $1 million and you can give it to the US government, you must be pretty talented and you're certainly operating within the national interests of the United States. Therefore, you deserve a green card. Well, be that as may, theoretically, that's within the purview of the president. But I can tell you, it's very likely there's going to be some litigation about this, right? Because, and if you put this before a court and say, look, did Congress really intend, when they created these categories, did they intend to include rich people who are able to invest $1 million as being an extraordinary and talented individual? I would tend to think most people would say Congress did not have this in mind when they created these visa categories. It's a creative idea. I'll have to give credit to the Trump administration, but I think it's easily challengeable in court. So that's the first point. That's where am I going with all this? This was an executive order. It's not written in statute. It was issued by the president, and the president could just as easily remove it, deny it, cancel it next week, right? So that creates a whole lot of uncertainty around this whole program. So if you were considering doing the gold card, at least if I were doing it, I would be a little bit concerned because President Trump could reverse this all at some point in time. I'm not saying he is or he's planning to, but he easily could reverse it. And then what happens in that case? Do you get your money back? Is the U.S. Treasury going to pay you $1 million back? I have problems enough getting any, withheld taxes back from the government, much less get $1 million back. So I suspect that would be a very challenging undertaking at a minimum. So that's the first issue, that there's lack of certainty around this, proposal because it could easily be revoked, whether it's by a court, by President Trump himself, or even by another president. After President Trump leaves office, this executive order could easily be overturned by another executive. The other problems we see with the gold card is the following, and I'd say this is probably the biggest issue. As I said, they're putting this gold card under, and I think it's unclear as of right now, they were talking about putting it under either the EB-1A category or the NIW, based on that logic I just described to you. Here's the problem. If let's say you're Indian, for example, if they put it under the NIW category, then you're going to be subject to the backlog that currently exists for the NIW category, right? There's no way to get around that quota. So for anybody, especially if you're Indian in particular, that wait time I think is decades long. If you're not Indian, that wait time is still at least a year and a half, possibly 2 years. So if you compare to the EB-5 program, there is no wait time as of right now for any nationality. There's no backlog. And so as immediately you file, as soon as your case is reviewed, you can start the process of getting your visa or adjusting your status here. If they put this gold card under the NIW, then like I said, if you're Indian, you're going to be waiting for decades. And if you're not even Indian, you'll be waiting at least for a couple years. So I see that as a big downside to this hoopla surrounding the gold card. Now, if they decided to put the gold card under the EB-1A for extraordinary individuals, there the wait time isn't quite as bad, certainly for Indians, and it's actually current for everybody else, who's not of Indian nationality. So if they do put it under the EB-1A, you won't have so much that delay. So that is, a potentially good side of the gold card. The other potentially good part of the gold card is that you don't have to get two green cards, as say you do with the EB-5 program. With the EB-5, you get a conditional green card that's valid for 2 years, and then after that, you file for a permanent green card. And there's always a little angst and concern, hey, when I file my second petition to get the permanent green card, is there going to be a delay? Is there going to be a denial and stuff like that? I mean, in our 20 years of experience, we've never had a denial of an 829. So it's generally a pretty solid, application, but still, it costs money. It costs, $9,000 to get the permanent green card under the EB-5 program. So that is an advantage of the gold card as it's currently presented, in that, once you get that green card, it's a permanent green card. You don't have to monkey around and file with getting a permanent one in a few years. So that is theoretically a benefit. They were also talking about benefits for people that they wouldn't be taxed on their global income. So if you're a green card holder or a citizen, you're taxed on your global income in the same way you're taxed on your domestic income here in the U.S. There was talk about exempting holders of the gold card, to exempt them from paying taxes on their worldwide income that was earned outside the U.S. Where exactly that stands right now, I don't know. I will admit that would be a very competitive advantage of the gold card compared to any other green card status or category. But here too, I think it's very suspect and very likely that this would be challenged in court. And I think it's probably very likely it would not be upheld, because if you want to create a separate category of green card holders and eventually citizens who have a better tax standing, a more advantageous tax regime that applies to them to other green card holders. I think that's a violation of a lot of due process and other legal norms. So I don't see that holding up. So in light of all the hoopla, again, I think the gold card itself is a very intriguing idea. I think there's always room for new innovative ideas to help increase America's competitiveness, bring money and fresh blood to the U.S. And I think any program that helps to do that is great. So I'll applaud the Trump administration for at least trying. But I think they have to try a little better and think through these ideas a little bit more carefully before just shooting off the hip to come up with these ideas that, I hate to say it, are a little bit half-baked. They're just not completely thought through to benefit both the investors and immigrants who will be applying, and to also benefit the U.S. So I would say 2.0 Gold Card was a good try. It was an improvement off the first version, but I still think it's going to be challenged in a number of ways in courts. And to be honest, I don't think it's a very viable option, at least how it's been presented so far to the public. If you are looking at whether a Gold Card, perhaps an EB-5, or other options that might best serve you, please reach out to us, because there are a number of options that are more reliable, more established, and more secure than maybe this new Gold Card. We've been doing this for over 15 years, helping clients, investors, business people successfully acquire short-term or long-term residency here in the U.S. in order to help them achieve all of their goals. And we would love to have you join us as well. Sign up if you haven't to subscribe to our channel to get all the latest updates. And we'd love to consult with you at your earliest convenience to discuss your future plans here in America.